It was a stormy night when the package arrived. No name, no return address, just waiting at my door. I thought it was harmless, just another box, but the way my hands trembled told me otherwise. Inside, wrapped in torn newspaper, was a doll, its porcelain face cracked and its eyes glowing red, almost alive. I placed it on the table, hoping it was nothing, but even sitting still, it felt like it was watching me. That grin, jagged, uneven, like it wanted to laugh at my fear. I couldn't look away. My heart pounded, my hands shook, every shadow stretched too far, and still it stared at me. Then its shadow moved, reaching toward me like it had always belonged here. That was the night. My life was no longer mine. It was a stormy night when I found a small, damp package waiting at my doorstep. My name was scratched across it, written in shaky, uneven handwriting, as if someone wanted me to open it, but never wanted me to know who sent it. I carried it inside, my hands trembling. The storm outside roared louder, rattling the windows. For a moment, it felt like the wind itself was whispering warnings I could not hear. When I tore the box open, my heart froze. Wrapped in crumpled newspaper was a doll, a Labubu doll, but not the kind children collect. Its fur was filthy, its porcelain cheek cracked, and those glassy red eyes, they almost looked alive. I leaned closer, and for the first time, I saw its face clearly. The crack running down its porcelain cheek, the jagged grin carved too wide, and those glowing red eyes. For a second, I swore they shifted, watching me back. I tried to laugh it off, telling myself it was just a toy, maybe a prank from a friend. But my chest grew heavy. Its presence filled the room in a way no lifeless object should. I placed it on the desk, beside my books and coffee mug. Ordinary things in an ordinary apartment. Yet with the doll sitting there, upright and grinning, everything felt wrong. The shadows stretched longer, as if they wanted me to look away. I walked away, trying to ignore it, but every step I took, I felt its eyes following me. The silence was louder than the storm outside, and I knew I shouldn't look back. When I returned, the doll wasn't sitting upright anymore. It had slumped to the side, its cracked face tilted deliberately toward me, like it was mocking the fear tightening my chest. The lights flickered as thunder shook the apartment, and in that brief flash of darkness, I saw it again, upright, perfectly still, this time facing the door, as if it was waiting for someone to come in. I walked away, trying to ignore it, but every step I took, I felt its eyes following me. The silence was louder than the storm outside, and I knew I shouldn't look back. I tried to sleep, but the silence was unbearable. Every creak in the floorboards, every rattle of the window felt sharper, closer. I pulled the blanket tighter, but I couldn't escape the weight of its stare. Then I heard it, faint, dragging plastic against wood, a scraping sound that cut through the silence. My heart stopped. I knew it was no longer on the shelf. I jolted awake at midnight, the storm still raging outside. My chest was tight, my ears straining in the darkness. And then I heard it again, the scraping, closer this time. I stepped into the living room, and there it was. Sitting neatly on the couch, its cracked porcelain face turned toward me. That grin, too wide, too jagged, mocked me in the flickering light. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. The doll was no longer on the couch. It was on the floor now, lying face down, arms stretched forward, dragging itself closer. Its glowing red eyes locked onto mine, and I knew this was only the beginning. That night, I woke to a sound I couldn't explain, a faint scraping, dragging itself across the wooden floor. My chest tightened as I listened. Then came the thud, sharp and sudden, like something had fallen. When I looked, the doll was no longer on the shelf. It was lying on the floor, arms stretched forward as if it had moved on its own. And then I heard it, tap, tap, tap. The sound of tiny feet pressing against the floorboards in the dark. With trembling hands, I switched on the lamp. For a moment, the weak yellow light flickered across the room, and there it was. The doll was frozen, sitting neatly on the couch, as if it had always been there. Its cracked porcelain cheek caught the light, that jagged grin wider than before, red eyes glowing like embers. I could barely breathe as I stepped closer, each movement heavy with dread. The more I stared, the more I knew. This was not a toy. This thing was alive. I forced myself to move closer, each step slower than the last. My hand reached out, shaking, as if touching it would prove it was still just a doll. But then, a creak echoed behind me. I froze, the air heavy, my skin crawling. When I turned back to the couch, it was gone. My eyes dropped to the floor, and there it was. Crawling, its porcelain face scraping against the wood, glowing eyes locked onto mine, jagged grin stretching wider with every inch it dragged itself closer. Its cracked face dragged closer, eyes glowing brighter, grin carved too wide. I stumbled back, gasping, my hand flying to my mouth to stop a scream. I had to do something. Anything. My hands moved on their own, snatching a blanket, wrapping the doll tight as it twitched in my grip. The storm raged outside, lightning flashing through the window, but all I could hear was the frantic pounding of my own heart and the faint scraping inside the bundle I held. With shaking hands, I shoved the wrapped doll into a cardboard box and sealed it shut with tape, each rip echoing like thunder in the silence. I dragged it to the closet, slamming the door as if that could hold it back. For a moment, there was only quiet. I pressed my forehead to the door, trying to breathe when it came again. That scraping sound, soft, deliberate, from inside the closet. And then, through the cracks of the wood, two glowing red eyes appeared, and a whisper that froze my blood. "Why are you afraid of me?" I thought locking it away would end it, but that night, the messages began. On the mirror, smeared in something dark, I saw the words, "Still here." My stomach turned cold as I looked closer, and in the reflection, behind me, the doll was there. Its cracked face grinning, its glowing eyes alive. When I spun around, nothing, but the walls carried the same words now, written over and over, as if the house itself had started to whisper. I found it again, sitting on the table, the cursed doll, upright and waiting, a fresh message scrawled beside it. "You can't hide me." My hands trembled as I picked up a half-burnt piece of paper lying near its feet. The words were the same, burned into the page as if written in fire. I looked back at the doll, ash smeared around its jagged grin, like it had spoken the words itself. The air grew heavier. The lights dimmed until shadows swallowed the room. My breath quickened as I saw it. Standing in the kitchen doorway, the doll's red eyes glowed through the dark, its cracked face smiling wider than ever. I stumbled back, and that's when I noticed the floor, words scratched deep into the wood, letters jagged and raw. "You belong to me." My knees gave way. It wasn't just haunting me, it was claiming me. I tried to crawl away, my hands shaking, but the sound stopped me cold. A faint crumpling, like paper being crushed. I looked up, and there it was, the doll standing in the shadows, clutching the message in its tiny hands. Its glowing red eyes burned into mine. That jagged grin stretched wider than ever. And in that moment, I knew there was no escape. The hallway was silent, too silent. My flashlight shook in my hands, the beam trembling against the dark walls. And then, at the far end, it was there. The doll. Sitting still, waiting. I blinked, and suddenly, closer. Its glowing red eyes pierced through the dark, each step I took dragging me deeper into its shadow. I ran, my footsteps echoing like screams across the wooden floor. But no matter how fast I moved, the shadows chased me, stretching longer, swallowing the light. I stumbled into the living room and froze. The doll was standing on a chair now, its cracked face turned toward me. The lights flickered, once, twice, until it was right beside me. I could feel its grin against my skin. The room began to collapse into darkness, walls bending, floor breaking under the weight of something unnatural. I screamed, the sound tearing from my throat, but it was drowned in shadow. And then, silence. When the light returned, it was gone. Everything was gone. Except for the doll. sitting alone in the dark. Upright, grinning, its eyes glowing brighter than ever, waiting for the next night.